All right, here we go. Here we go on a Wednesday. Hope you guys are all having a fantastic week so far. I am Chris. This is Scott. We are your hosts for the Action Lab here on Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube. We are live on all three platforms, multi streaming. So, wherever you may be and however you may be listening, as Colin Cowherd usually says, thank you for being a part of what we have going on here and making us part of your evening. As far as this week goes, it's kind of a slower week, Scotty. It's been a little bit of a, March Madness. We kind of, wrapped up over the weekend, and then all we've really had this week is NBA, NHL, which isn't a bad thing, but it's been a little quiet. We're in between the trade deadline for the NBA, which we're going to touch on here in a little bit, but yeah, kind of a down part of the week.
Yeah, the March Madness this year's throwing me off anyway with their scheduling, and now normally the Sweet 16 would start tomorrow on a Thursday, holding off till Saturday on that. So we got a couple days to go before that kicks back into gear. We are about a week away from opening day in Major League Baseball, so we're not far off there. We'll have that to talk about on one of our upcoming shows. Otherwise, NBA trade deadline. We got a little bit of NFL things to talk about. Free agency's continuing. We won't get too far into that since a lot of the big names we've already touched on. But people are still getting signed. But there's a particular name in football that's been in the news just a little bit recently.
And it hasn't really been a big story up until this point. No, it's been a huge story, and we're going to touch on that here in a little bit. And NFL free agency. Honestly, here in Denver, we've had some interesting updates as far as what the Broncos have been doing. And actually, this new GM has been getting a lot of praise this past week for some of the moves he's been making when it comes to the Denver Broncos, which, as far as, him solidifying, we got Kareem Jackson back on the defensive side. They lured him back because he didn't really get too much interest on the open market. And then we were able to save some money there. And then, there's some interesting pieces. I don't know. I'm not jumping to any conclusions. We got some decent players on defensive side of the ball locked in for the next year. But again, we'll see what happens once the season kicks off. But there are some people saying this GM has done more in Denver than John Elway did in his entire, his last 4 years combined total, and in making moves that actually move the needle. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
He brought Kareem Jackson back. He brought Von Miller back. He brought Shelby Harris back. They signed
Darby
Simmons to a long-term deal, and they got Darby and Kyle Fuller in the secondary. Most of those guys are just bringing back guys. Granted, Darby and Fuller are new additions, but bring back guys that were not on the team were on the team last year. So anytime you have a 5-11 team and you can bring back those guys, you gotta do it. You gotta do it.
Hey,
I would say he is getting some praise. I think what he's just doing is playing it out. A lot of these are on 1-year deals. Fuller's on a 1-year deal. Kareem Jackson's on a 1-year deal. Von Miller's on a 1-year deal. Which I don't really know the plan with that because there's still one big problem on the Broncos roster next year.
It's not quarterback.
It might be quarterback. So, I don't really know the vision. I don't mind what he's done. I think I said on the Sunday show, I like Fuller a lot. Fuller's a really solid corner. He's a number one corner on a defense. Darby, I didn't like as much. Bring back those other guys are fine. Those are all good players. Justin Simmons signing to a long-term was certainly something they needed to get done at the safety position. But I don't know if I fully understand the Vaughn re-signing. I feel like you could have used that money to sign some other guys that are younger and will be with the team for a few more years. Because I don't think this GM should view the Broncos as a contender this next year. But he hasn't done anything poor, and he as at least showing a commitment to the guys that have been on the team before that hey, if you play well, we'll take care of you. So I'll give him that.
Yeah, so we'll see how that ends up panning out. We still have, more free agency talk to go through. And then as far as everything else locally, Nuggets end up losing. They're actually down 135 to 108. It's big time loss here for them. So they're going to come up with an L here in Toronto. So they're not going to be able to make this a complete success on the road trip here, but they have another opportunity to right the ship here later on in the week. So, yeah, rough go for the Nuggets. Nikola Jokic 5 assists short of a triple-double, but, as far as that goes. And then the Avalanche are off today. However, they have been on a tear of late. They're 28-3. They ended up having an overtime loss as of yesterday, which was a little bit unfortunate. I was kind of watching the end of that game, and it just went to shootout and didn't end up going their way. They had their new goalie that they just traded for in, and wasn't exactly the outcome they wanted.
I won't panic. When Grubauer's playing, Grubauer's played phenomenal this year. He'll be in the Vezina Trophy hunt as one of the, he'll be one of the 3 finalists for that. He's played absolutely phenomenal, and he'll obviously be the guy in the postseason. So them giving up 5 goals, technically, when you include the shootout, really 4 goals last night, doesn't concern me. Obviously they just traded for this goaltender. Would have been nice for him to play well, but they still outshot Arizona, of course, but wasn't enough. And their goaltender, they still have a problem, it looks like, behind Grubauer. But when it really comes down to it, the postseason is what matters for this team. And Grubauer looks like he's playing better than he ever has, with a roster outside of him that's better than it's ever been. So I'm not concerned about the Avs at all. I think they're playing great. Prior to this game, they were blowing teams out by 5-6 goals every game. So, and that was with Grubauer playing. So they're just fine.
And we got Vegas coming up on the schedule here very quickly.
Big games.
Which I'm probably going to be glued into each and every single one of those games, because you got the 2 of the top contenders for the Stanley Cup in action against each other in that matchup, back-to-back games. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But as far as that goes, that's kind of what's been happening locally here. But let's dive in. We have some things to talk about on the big, national scale here. There's a lot to touch on, and we actually just want to jump in and dive into some of this. Deshaun Watson is going to be leading us off in our news rundown. Now, Deshaun Watson, he has definitely been one of those players in the news. So free agency has been a big thing here. And, as far as, Deshaun Watson goes, he's been one of the centerpieces of free agency. Everybody's been eyeballing Deshaun Watson, trying to figure out what his situation's going to be. I mean, you had San Francisco, you had Denver, you had Carolina, and then you also, there's still rumors, as of this last week, that even Miami and New York Jets are still, playing around with the idea and of bringing him in. And this is despite all of the allegations. Now, here's the thing. There has been, unless you've been living under a rock, a bunch of allegations that have come out.
I believe 532 lawsuits at this point.
I mean, he is just racking them up. And so as far as, since March 23rd, yesterday, he has 16 lawsuits filed against him. And then there's still, I think, 9 or 10 more that are just still, out there, but haven't exactly been filed quite yet. So there still could be more here. But Deshaun Watson in the news for sexually assaulting or sexual misconduct with females within the massage world, just with various allegations. But some of them, most of them seem to be pretty similar to themselves. But just when this first came out, the attorney for Deshaun Watson said there's nothing here. There's no substantiability with anything that's going on these rumors. It's all false, and we are confident in that. And then all of a sudden, number 2, number 3, then it turned to a LeBron James. Not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7. they started rolling in, and then all of a sudden everything went quiet on this front. And we haven't really heard too much from Watson's camp since that first one, but there are some, quotes from, the prosecuting side of things that say, this is starting to be more of a sexual predator kind of aspect. Now, keep in mind, these are all just filed. They're just, civil suits, and he's not proven guilty quite yet. They still have to go through this process. There's still a long, long ways to go. But with that being said, this is big news for a guy who's probably the number one free agent, or number one targeted guy trade-wise. He's not a free agent out there that everyone was coveting. So, Scotty, what are you thinking about everything that's going on with this Deshaun Watson case?
Man, this whole thing is strange to me. It's super weird. Now, I think it's important that we say, absolutely, things like this should be taken seriously. We should get to the bottom of it. We should figure it out. But at the same time, we can't just assume he's guilty. Now, when 16 different lawsuits are filed, it doesn't look great. It doesn't look good on the surface. But at the same time, I don't love that the prosecuting lawyers kind of publicized it. He's putting a lot of stuff on like Twitter and Instagram and social media, like, different text message strings. And when he announced that these lawsuits were going down, I feel like that was him applying pressure to get a settlement from Deshaun Watson, as if like, hey, I don't know if I can prove this, but let's get a settlement. I don't know. That's just my take. You're right that the defense hasn't said a lot, but Deshaun's lawyer did come out, I believe, yesterday regarding now the prosecutions filed these, and all these females are listed under Jane Doe, and the prosecution has asked for names on each of these privately, not to release to the public, but privately, and the prosecuting side has denied giving them those names, which I feel like is normally customary to provide the names to, so they can start to vet and start to figure out, where this is coming from and who's saying this and what happened there. They do think that based on the third case filed, their lawyer came out and said in January of this year, and I quote, a woman attempted to blackmail Deshaun by demanding $30,000 in exchange for her indefinite silence about what she stated was a consensual encounter. So one of them, they feel like basically through messaging blackmailed him for 30 grand, and at the same time admitted that it was a consensual encounter, but was trying to get money out of him. So who knows if that's true? That could be a lie. That could be false. I think we just need to let this play out. But in the meantime, for Deshaun, he obviously wants to move on from the Texans. Texans really can't, like, I don't know how another team can trade for him at this moment with all of this lingering. Like, this has to get figured out. This has to get settled. Now, granted, you mentioned it's just in the civil realm right now. So it's basically a lawsuits in the civil spectrum suing for, money, essentially.
Exactly.
There, at this time at least, aren't any criminal cases or criminal charges that have been set forth against Deshaun. But this is just weird. Like, is Deshaun just the most reckless guy in the world that would like continually do this and has this some sort of like crazy addiction? I don't know. Is that possible? Of course it's possible. This one just seems super odd to me. Like, I don't know what to think, because Deshaun, throughout all the media relations, everything like that, seems like he's a stand-up guy. Now, does that mean that he didn't do this? Of course not. But it just seems strange to me. I don't get the pieces right now, and how he could be, this, and how this is all just coming out at once. Like, it's one thing with some of these other guys in the past that maybe have alleged, like said something inappropriate, or, whatever it is. But he, a lot of these he forces them into oral sex, or, touching his groin area, or whatever it is. To have no one just come out instantly and report that, and now it's all coming out at once, is either crazy timing, or I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what happened. Hopefully the truth will come out one way or the other. If he did this, that's awful and probably shouldn't afford himself to play in the NFL. If he is innocent of this, then this is the greatest, well, not the greatest, but just a terrible scheme put on by these people for a money grab. So we'll see what happens. We'll let it play out.
I think this is going to be an interesting too, because this also comes into play with him getting paid and everything else. He can. We've seen players go on the commissioner's exempt list, and this is going to be one of those things where they're out indefinitely without pay or whatever those, depending on or what that looks like. So we've seen players go on that exempt list for less than this. So I would expect the NFL to take some action because obviously, this is part of defending the shield, right? The shield is utmost importance when it comes to the character of the league and who's representing the shield of the NFL. So this is going to be fascinating to see the NFL's response. Now, NFL hasn't exactly come out and said a lot either in this. They've kind of been on the sidelines, and honestly, I think that at some point they need to, now it's kind of funny that Deshaun Watson has been distancing himself from the Texans, but yet, something happens here, he's still going to be needing to get paid at some point by the Texans as well. So, because there's some, depending on how this unfolds, the contract, could be up and he could be done and he can, be out of the league if things get really dicey or these types. There's a lot of the scenarios here, so we'll keep that on the side burner as well. But
I don't know for sure. One thing, the NFL did come out, a spokesperson, and say Brian McCarthy said the matter is under review, so they're investigating it. They've reached out. I know the prosecuting team has said that they've been reached out to and are willing to meet with and comply with the NFL and in whatever way they can. And I'm sure the defense side will too. So the NFL is investigating it, but hasn't formally stated, their stance, or they haven't put them on the exempt list. The fact that it's civil makes it a little weird, and that there's nothing criminal now. And I don't think a civil lawsuit, my guess is if it's just civil, I don't think that would void a contract in the NFL. I don't know that for sure. I know going on the exempt list, you're paid on the exempt list. So If he does get put on the exempt list, he's still getting paid his contract. He's just not allowed to participate in team activities or obviously practices or games or anything like that.
Yeah. And another question that comes into play is if you're a team that's interested in Deshaun Watson's services, how do you approach this now? Because now at this point, Houston, this is kind of a rough spot for Houston because Houston doesn't want to necessarily associate themselves with somebody if this is all true. I mean, obviously it's going to go downhill from there and they're going to, distance themselves. It's going to be, they're going to release him or whatever that ends up being or whatever. But let's just say everything else just unfolds, and some of these may be true, maybe a couple of them, but then maybe the rest of them are false, or however this ends up playing out. If you're a Denver, San Francisco, Carolina, New York Jets, Miami Dolphins, are you still interested in Deshaun as much as you were before all this came out? That's going to be the big question. And from some reports, there is still interest from those teams. But I think everyone's kind of waiting to see what ends up happening from all of these reports and what ends up unfolding. Because, again, that's a big PR nightmare for any team that picks him up. Because guess what? All the distractions, all the questions are going to be, even if some of this stuff isn't true, that's going to be a big distraction for any team that takes on Deshaun Watson. Now keep in mind, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL and one of the more coveted quarterbacks in the NFL. We saw that he was just on fire statistically with a Houston team that was one of the worst teams in the NFL, and he was, playing at a very, very high level. So, that being said, I mean, how do you feel if you're a team that's potentially looking for Deshaun Watson services?
I think you, for this next season at least, have to plan to not have, that as an option. I think it's going to take too long to figure out and have this settle down. And you have the draft, about a month away from now. I don't think everything's going to work itself out before then. And once you enter draft mode, you got to figure out what you're doing for this season. So you might want to pursue a guy in the draft instead of trying to trade for him. If you're Houston, you're not trying to move him right now because you may not get, and people aren't probably, even if they are interested, aren't going to give you near the value he's worth to take on that risk of whatever is going to happen with this. So as long as this is going on, I don't think he goes anywhere. I think he's in Houston, and I think that continues through, through the draft at least. Who knows when this all gets settled, and figured out, and how long that'll take. Who knows? But I could see Houston retaining him this year. He doesn't play for Houston. And then depending on how things go, if he's proven innocent of all these charges or not convicted or whatever, he would get moved next season with where Houston can still, get as much value back as possible.
Pork chop in the chat. I'd rather have Andy Dalton. Oh, red rifle. Okay. All right. I don't know if Andy Dalton has the same talent as Deshaun. I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure he doesn't. Mayday, welcome back. Hope you're having a good week, my friend. Welcome back. So yeah,
speaking of Andy Dalton, did you see the Bears? The Bears I think they tweeted a picture of Photoshop picture of Andy Dalton in a Bears jersey in a game and just said QB1 on it. I'm like, are they trying to upset people like Bears fans? Are they trying actively to make them mad by putting out a picture? Bears fans are mad right now that Andy Dalton's going to be their quarterback. But then for the Bears Twitter account to send out a Photoshop picture and be like, QB1, this is our guy, Andy Dalton. Oh man, you're just igniting a flame. I don't understand. I feel like they knew what they were doing and they just thought it would be fun to do anyway.
Yeah, no, it's Chicago. You don't really ever know what's going on over there. So I don't know. Mayday, I'm a Clemson fan. So if this is true, it disappoints me. Yeah, no, and I think, everyone's kind of holding their breath. I think a lot of people are hoping it's not true. Obviously, anytime this stuff pops up, as Scott mentioned, as a lot of people have mentioned, we got to take it seriously if there even is some sort of allegation like this until he's proven guilty and until more details and the investigation goes through. But yeah, it would be really unfortunate. So yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. This might be a long road. It might not be a quick, hey, this is false, this is true, this is false. It might take, some time to sort through everything. There's still cases that haven't even been filed yet, potentially. So we'll see what happens on this road, but not a good look for Deshaun. And he's got a battle ahead of him. That's for sure. So go ahead.
I was going to say, and I've talked about how weird it is. I just don't know. Both outcomes here are not good. No outcome here is good. He either is guilty of this, which is super unfortunate and, not great for the league, or there's a ton of people in a conspiracy trying to money grab from him. And that's just sad and a state of why, how can you pull that many people together to try and do something like that? And that makes me doubt humanity in general. Which I'm doing a lot of these days with what's going on. Obviously, we had a couple days ago that unfortunate situation in Boulder, Colorado, at a King Soopers grocery store with a guy going in and shooting and killing 10 people just out of the blue. We don't know a lot of details about why, what the situation was, who this guy was. They took him out alive, so hopefully we'll get to the bottom of what happened there. But just want to put out that that one hit me hard. That one hit me hard. I think, the more being a father now and just imagining going to a grocery store and my kids are there, and for something like that to happen, whether we're even victims of it or we're just witnesses to it, absolutely awful. Mayday, yeah, our families are fine. We're more in the South Denver area, though. My mom and father-in-law both work in Boulder, and then I have family in Longmont, which isn't too far from Boulder. So I had to call them real quick and make sure everything was good, especially with my mom and stuff, who I know they work in Boulder, but everyone's good. But it hit pretty hard for me. Like that's just such an awful situation. I don't know if you saw Mike Malone in his press conference after the game yesterday.
Yeah.
Was basically like tearing up, talking about, he listed all the victims' names, and then was talking about the officer who was killed, who had 7 children. He just kind of broke down. So I don't know what the solution is. Obviously, we're not going to dive into the politics of all that, but it's super unfortunate. It's hard, and it's scary to think that like just going to the grocery store can't be a thing you do anymore and feel completely safe.
Yeah, it's definitely, us being in Colorado, obviously we know a lot of friends who've gone up to Boulder and lived there and gone to that grocery store. I've seen a lot of Facebook posts and different things, and it's just, really unfortunate. But yeah, Mayday, appreciate the love. Big, send thoughts and prayers to everybody who's, been, battling through anything on that front when it comes to what was going down up in Boulder. So, but yeah, a lot of really not great stories when it comes to that and the Deshaun Watson. It's just kind of, it's just not ideal. And, hopefully we can just try to get into a better place where, you don't have to worry about these things happening as frequently. And those are some bigger topics that or for another day, and for another show, or even just channel to touch on, because we like to keep it light on sports. Obviously we like to touch on some of the important issues as well, but we like to keep you guys entertained as well. So thank you guys for all the love. Let's move on to the next one, though. We have a lot going on in the NBA. NBA, let's make a deal now. Yes, Mayday, let's go. Let's move on to it a little bit. Now, we have some NBA free agency going on. There's a lot of rumors out there. Mayday, even with your Sixers, I don't know if you've been hearing some of those rumors about, potential moves. I heard potentially JJ Redick could buy out and go back to Philly or maybe somewhere else. So they're looking to make some moves, I think. Denver is looking to make some moves. I think there's a lot of things that are going to happen. I always get excited a day before, because I'm like, oh, we're going to start seeing some moves. And like everything ends up happening like late tonight, starting tomorrow morning into the day. And it's just, I'm so excited to see what's going on. But there are some names that have been scrolling around here in the different, conversations of behind the scenes experts and rumors and everything else, a lot of which end up being, we had some with Orlando. There's a couple players in Orlando that they are potentially moving that could be a big one, including who you're seeing on the screen right now, Aaron Gordon. There's rumors that he's potentially being chased by Boston. Boston is definitely a team that is not where they want to be right now, and they're making a hard push for him. As far as Kyle Lowry's another one that's going to be out there. So there's a few ones that have been floated.
Mayday's talking about that in the chat.
Yep. Mayday, heard that bring up Philly boy Lowry. Bring him back. Would you? Hey, Philly or Mayday, let me know who you would like to see. As far as some of the rumors and who you would like to see fit, and what you think would be the best fit for the playoff run when it comes to Philadelphia gearing up for the playoffs. I would love to hear it. But as far as some of these other go, what do you guys think? Let us know in the chat, whether you're in Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch, who your top candidates are. Now, I've been kind of keeping my ears to the street. The Nuggets have been linked with a couple players. I got excited, actually. I texted Scott one day because I saw Woj. And Woj, Adrian Wojnarowski, one of the big NBA, he breaks all the news. He's on top of everything. I see a Woj tweet on my feed that said, Bull, who was it? Bull, Jermichael Green, and a first-round pick for Lonzo Ball. And I was like, I lost my mind for a minute because I was like, is this real? Ended up being, a fake Woj account that just literally popped up. Only had like 30 followers. I was like, man, these need to like stop, especially around the trade deadline. But yeah, I definitely lost my mind for a minute thinking something crazy was going to happen with Lonzo coming to Denver, which has been rumored. There has been some interest, I think, from Denver. There's other names out there that are going to be linked. I like Brogdon. You saw him on the screen here a little bit ago. He's an interesting one that I would think would fit really well here. But, I mean, there's going to be a lot of movement in the next day or so. I think there could be some big blockbusters. Oladipo's out there. A couple of the Toronto Raptors are out there. Norman Powell. And as you mentioned, Kyle Lowry. So much going to be happening in the next 24 hours. I can't wait.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of names out there. We'll see who ends up getting moved. Mayday in the chat talking about Redick. He was big when he played with us. I think Redick's a great fit for 76ers. I think when you have a guy like Simmons and Embiid, you want to surround those guys with shooters who can stretch the floor a little bit. Obviously, Simmons doesn't do that, but Embiid can stretch the floor. But either way, when he's in the post and he can pass out to a three-point shooter like Redick, that's a good fit. So I like that a lot, and that makes a lot of sense. Other names out there that you didn't mention, Laurie Markanen, I heard from the Bulls, is out there. He's averaging about 18 and 6 a game and still young, so we'll see. You talked about Oladipo. I think Oladipo gets moved. I've talked about Oladipo prior to the season as a fit with the Nuggets. Haven't heard a ton of talk that they're in on him. Obviously, he's got a big contract, which may make that difficult unless good old Kroenke wants to dole out some cash, which he has plenty of, so he could do it. But I love Brogdon. Brogdon's a player. I heard there were offers out for him. I heard today that wasn't necessarily the case, that they weren't listening to offers for him. But if they're looking to move him because they have LeVert, that'd be something I'd love. Lonzo Ball, like you talked about, wouldn't be a bad fit for the Nuggets or a lot of teams. He's a plus guy on offense and defense. He's not elite on either side, but he's very, very good on both sides.
He's improved his three-point shooting for sure since we first came into the league as well.
Yeah. The Denver guy from the Denver Post, Mike Singer, also threw out, along with Aaron Gordon, Harrison Barnes from the Sacramento Kings. He's kind of been a journeyman at this point, play with a lot of teams. Doesn't excite me too much. And then an old name, Evan Fournier from the Magic, who's offensively really, really solid. Not a big defensive presence, which I feel like the Nuggets really need out on the wing. So I don't know how much of a fit that is. But that's another name that apparently is out there for teams in general. So there's a lot of names. JaVale McGee, of course, is out there because he is every year. I don't know why these playoff teams are always like, we got to get JaVale McGee. I don't know how much he actually brings outside of like in the playoffs, like for 5 minutes a game, he'll come in and bring some energy and hopefully not do something really, really dumb out there. John Collins from the Hawks, I've heard, is a guy that might be on the move. They're listening there.
That would be a big one for big trade there.
I've heard Boston's trying to get in on that. So there's a lot of good names. We don't have a lot of time left. Tomorrow's the trade deadline. We'll know a lot more after tomorrow. Let's hope, for everyone's sake, that the Lakers don't add any pieces. I've heard that Lowry's a possibility in LA, and I'd be like, please no. Let's not do that.
Yeah.
Let's not do that. I don't think Lowry's is. He's not like a huge difference maker like some may believe, but you surround him with LeBron and AD, and that's trouble.
Yeah, I think JJ Redick is definitely an interesting one because he's always been kind of an under the radar player. I've always liked JJ Redick, and over the last few years, he's been a guy that'll just get you a big bucket here and there, and he'll be making that impact. So if he ends up going to Philadelphia, man, I think Philadelphia takes a huge step forward. They're already 31-13 in the standings. They're doing well without Joel Embiid at the moment, which, I mean, 9-1 in their last 10, went 3-game win streak, and man, like they are still cruising along. And you add another piece that, like a shooting piece for them to kick out to on the wing. Woo, man, JJ Redick can offer that. That's for sure. They're going to need it to compete with Brooklyn. I think Brooklyn's still, they're having some injury issues as well. I've heard some different things Brooklyn's kind of just picking up pieces here and there. They've already made a couple moves with, not really sexy moves. We saw they got Blake Griffin, and who knows if they're going to make any other changes or swap some players around. Milwaukee ended up getting a player from, what's his name? From Houston. What was it? Defensive.
I don't even know if I heard that.
A defensive guy. I can't remember. I'm just blanking right now.
Oh, he's been in the league forever.
Yeah.
Ariza?
No. Ariza also. He's been traded.
Was it Trevor Ariza?
Trevor Ariza wasn't. It was.
He was traded in the Myers Leonard deal, right?
And then he was let go by the team because they didn't want him after that. But PJ Tucker, sorry. PJ Tucker ended up going over to the Milwaukee Bucks. So they ended up getting those teams are bolstering at the top of the Eastern Conference, and those teams are going to be pretty potent, I think. Mayday in the chat, ESPN can't get enough for the Nets. I swear they have a thing for them saying they're the best team in the East. Sixers are the first without a potential MVP. I think when this move was made, a lot of people, it's the sex appeal, right? You have three big names on the Brooklyn Nets. I still don't think. They're climbing the ladder. I think they're going to be good. I still like Philadelphia a ton in the East. I did like Boston initially when the season started, but they are not proving to be where they need to be. I liked Milwaukee in the beginning of the season. They haven't really. Giannis, he might creep back into the MVP category now that the top two candidates, well, arguably top two candidates are hurt right now. And he could work his way back into that conversation. This is his opportunity. So you might see a push for Milwaukee, but I don't think I see them making any major moves here at the trade deadline. I think they're going to stay pat, but you still got guys like Andre Drummond out there that are looking for a team. He's a big name that could help, solidify a defense for a team that maybe is lacking on that side of the court. So he's not going to bring a lot of offensive presence to you, but he can get those rebounds, he can get those blocks, and he can play some defense and get you some big possessions on that front. So there's a lot out there. I was kind of pulling up some other ones if there's any other names that have popped up since we've started streaming here. And yeah, there's still a lot out there. Let me see here.
Yeah, we'll see. It's crazy that it takes so long for these teams. Maybe they're just waiting to hear every deal possible, but maybe they don't feel like these other teams are going to move in another direction, so they all wait till the last day. But hopefully we have an interesting day with a lot of movement tomorrow and not just a lot of stories that never come to fruition and not a lot of movement. So we'll see what happens. I think we'll definitely have some guys move for sure. Like shown right now, Oladipo. I think Oladipo's not in Houston after tomorrow. They actually sat him tonight. They said for personal reasons. The personal reasons might be because he's getting dealt.
Yeah, so that was one thing. I was actually surprised in tonight's game. I think the line in the Denver game was interesting because I think we were watching the Denver Nuggets get crushed by the Toronto Raptors, which, by the way, I don't think we should have gotten crushed that much. but I think there was in Vegas. I think it was a 3-point difference in the line for the Nuggets, and I think they were accounting for Lowry to potentially not play in this game based off of the trade rumors, because they have been swirling like crazy over the last couple days. So I don't know if that was going into it, but I was kind of surprised when I saw him play the full game along with Norman Powell, because they've been rumored quite a bit.
That line makes total sense to me. You know that the Raptors are now, after tonight's win, 1-9 in their last 10. They're 1-9. They'd lost at least 9 straight. It might be longer than that coming into tonight's game, and they won by about 100 against the Nuggets tonight. Nuggets didn't show up on defense. Pretty disappointing performance.
Yeah.
But the Raptors have been real bad recently.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of crazy to me. It made in the chat, if Philly gets 1 seed, they're winning the East because they don't lose on their home court. Yeah, I think as far as that goes, they are pretty solid across the board. I wouldn't. This might be their year. I think as far as their home court, they're 19-4 at home. So yeah, they don't lose too much. Kind of 12-9 on the road. So that's kind of where they have their struggles a little bit more. But we'll see how that ends up panning out. But yeah, Lonzo Ball is another interesting one. I know he's been popping up in a lot. Has been, kind of chirping on the side a little bit over the last week on trying to get him to a contender, what he can get. But I don't know. Who knows? I think that potentially whoever the Nuggets get, I'm going to be fascinated by, because they need some shooters. They need to get somebody in there that can hit some shots and play some D. And it's kind of weird. We've been kind of playing defense a little bit here and there, but then we've kind of been not playing defense. It's kind of a strange run for the Nuggets at the moment, but they still overall have been playing fairly well in general. But I'm curious to see, and who knows? We could be making a splash here, and I'd be super excited about that. So.
Someone who also not only can shoot, but on the defensive end can lock down. Maybe a little taller guy, since we're a little short right now in like our backcourt and wings. Will Barton tonight, I know at one point at least when I looked, he was 0 of 8 from the field tonight, and Gary Harris hasn't played in who knows how long, because he gets hurt all the time. So Nuggets need wings. They need a defender on the wing. They need a guy who can consistently hit outside shots from the wing. It's not a guy that needs to create for himself. We don't need a guy that can create his own shot, because we have 2-man game with obviously with Murray and Jokic, and then have Porter at the number three option. So we just need a guy who can defend some of the elite players on other teams, along with hitting open shots from the perimeter.
Couple other names we haven't mentioned here either. LaMarcus Aldridge post buyout. We'll see what ends up happening with him. The Knicks are another team in the East that have been kind of swirling around the rumor mill. They've been very active in a lot of players. I think, they're going to make some moves. Obviously, the New York Knicks, a lot better this season. They are doing some bigger things than they typically do. They're 22-22, which they're not used to these kind of these. I don't think that's water they've treaded in before. Like that's new territory for them. So they are excited about their playoff chances. I would expect them to make some moves and see what they can do to get something going here. Yeah, who knows? But here we go. Mayday.
I just heard a name for the first time in the chat. William Sixerspear. William Sixerspear. I'd never heard of that. That's who signed off on this whole quote. Basically, Mayday talking about the process. If you guys have followed the 76ers through the years, trust the process has been their like theme. It's been slow moving. Now he's like, there's no Kawhi. The Nets and Bucks are the only ones in their path. If they get home court, the process shall be complete. And it was signed and dated by William Sixerspear from 19. I don't know, when was Shakespeare alive? 1915. I don't know, maybe 18. I don't know, when was Bill Shakespeare doing stuff?
I don't know. I'm not a history buff here, so I'm not gonna exactly jump in on that one. But yeah, this is gonna be a fun one for. I'm more interested in the Eastern Conference than I ever have been, I think, in previous seasons, though. I will say that. You got the Brooklyn Nets who, you never know what you're going to get with them, just the star power, and whether or not they're going to mesh it all together at the right time in the playoffs, we'll see. But they don't seem to be making any major moves here. And then some of the other teams, I'm not a big... look at a lot of these teams in the East. You don't really. It's still the East, right? You got Charlotte 22 and 21 in the 4 seed. Same thing with Atlanta in the 5. Miami in 6 seed is a 500 team, along with New York Knicks, and then Boston is a sub 500 team, 21 and 23 in the 8 seed. So it's, again, we're still talking about the Eastern Conference, but it's top heavy, very top heavy, and so. I am more interested this year than I have been in a long time. Now, the Western Conference, as far as making moves, the Lakers, Montrezl Harrell has been rumored a little bit. Who knows where he could potentially end up, but they just brought him in this past year, and we'll see if he ends up staying with L.A. LA needs to make something happen. I think usually LA is in the mix with a couple, role-playing players at the trade deadline, just to help LeBron get over the hump with a couple shooters or whoever that looks like. And then, Trailblazers, I don't see them making a lot of big moves. Dallas is looking to unload Porzingis. I don't think they're going to. No one wants to take on Porzingis and any contract that he's associated with all of his injuries and his history. It's not going to be something that anyone's going to want. And then Utah not making moves. Phoenix could make a couple small moves here and there. But, yeah, as far as that goes, I don't really see a lot of other movement. I think the Nuggets are going to be in the Western Conference with some of the bigger buyers at the trade deadline, and we'll see what they can end up pulling out. But, we'll see. It's going to be interesting. Go ahead.
Mayday helped us out. Mayday helped us on the chat with the whole Bill Shakespeare controversy. 1576, and I just Googled it, and that's he was alive from 1564 to 1616. So when I said like early 1900s, late 1800s, you can just ignore that. We might actually cut that from the clip. I was off by about 300 years, so 400 years. No big deal.
It's only 400 years.
Just a touch off there, and maybe I should have thought about a little more. Like, obviously, America wasn't really happening when Bill was around. I like to call him Bill. Do people call him William? I like to call him Bill.
I've never called him Bill, but I'm going to. I forgot my Bill Shakespeare graphic when I was putting the stream together earlier on this afternoon. Yep. I completely forgot it. It's in my folder somewhere. Missed out on that one. But it's gonna be fun. I can't wait to talk about this on our Sunday stream, because there's gonna be a lot to, we'll have our post free agent or trade deadline coverage on who we think won various trades, because there are gonna be plenty of them, and who's gonna be in line to make a big run going into the playoffs based off of the moves that they made, because there's a lot of contenders that are going to be making some moves. So that's going to be super exciting. Tune into our Sunday show for that. If you're here and you don't know when our Sunday show is, hit that follow button on Twitch, on Facebook, on YouTube, so that you know when we're going live. Usually it's 7:30 Mountain Time, 9:30 Eastern, and then we can just go through all of the moves and see all the breakdowns of everything that took place. So excited. Tomorrow's going to be a fun day. So keep your eyes on, if you're not following Adrian Wojnarowski, he's probably the best guy on Twitter. I usually only follow Shams. Yeah?
That's another guy. If you know Shams. Do you know who Shams is?
No.
Shams, he's with, I think, The Athletic. I don't know his last name. It's like Chadira or something. Shams is, they're in battle. They're in neck and neck. You get Woj bombs, but you get Sham bombs too.
Yeah, maybe I'll have to add him to my list, because once in a while I'll mute all my notifications from Woj for some part of the year, and then around free agency time and trade deadline time, I unmute Woj because he just ends up just unloading all the tweets about everything that's going down, and it gets you super excited. So if you're not following those guys, make sure you're following them on Twitter. They are fantastic. So keeping it in the NBA, though, we want to shift over to the NBA MVP race. Now, this NBA MVP race is going to be evolving throughout the year. Now, we started out the year with Luka being the number one, person in that odds for winning this, all of the MVP category. He was the best in Vegas if you were putting money down. Now, that's also shifted. At one point, it was LeBron. At one point, it was Joel Embiid. Now it's our boy Jokic here in the conversation. And I mean, there are names on this list that I think could be, coming into play as the season evolves. I think Giannis could come back into the conversation with, what the Bucks are doing. They're turning things around a little bit, playing a lot better than they were. And I know we talked about the odds previously on one of our previous shows. But one of the underdogs here that isn't getting a lot of hype, that is probably one of my under the radar, make some bets on it because it could pay off. Damian Lillard is another one that he is putting that team on his back by himself with all the other injuries happening to McCollum and some of the other guys on that team. He has kept them in the race single-handedly in the 6th seed, tied with the Nuggets, actually just below the Nuggets right now in the standings, in the 6th seed. But as far as that goes, he is currently plus 1,400. Wouldn't be surprised if you get some good value on him. But right now, Jokic is in the lead, minus 110. Joel Embiid is a big jump, plus 500. LeBron James plus 600. Both of those are on the sideline as we speak, which is going to really take a big hit. Giannis is plus 800 in this category. Then you have James Harden plus 900, Luka plus 1,200. So those are your candidates for the MVP race. Now, obviously I already know Mayday's looking for his boy Embiid to win this. And I know that, he's on the sidelines at the moment, which anytime you have an NBA MVP, anytime they get sidelined for any period of time, they're going to be taking a hit in what's going on. And plus, keep in mind, without Embiid, the Philadelphia 76ers are still playing really good basketball. So, that sometimes creeps into the equation. I know that he is, still up there. And actually, good call, matey. I don't know why he's not on this graphic.
Why is Anthony Davis on this graphic? He can just leave.
I pulled this one actually quick, so just disregard it, Mayday. Don't worry about it. It's probably because he's still one of the front runners, and they didn't want to give him too much hype. They already know he gets a lot of hype, and he's already up there as being one of the best. So maybe just I don't think that's gonna be that's a mistake on our end. So sorry about that for your boy. But, what do you think, as far as who you think is going to be coming down the stretch of these names for that MVP race?
So I think going in, and we maybe touched on this before, going into the All-Star break, this was a three-person battle. I think it was down to 3, in my opinion, between LeBron, Embiid, and Joker. And obviously now we're in a situation where 2 of those guys are injured, look like they might miss some significant amount of time. Embiid already has missed a decent amount of games. LeBron's probably going to miss a decent amount. So that catapults, in my mind, our local boy to the front runner. I never thought I'd see him win an MVP just because his style of play isn't something that gets, notoriety or is exciting or makes the highlights on SportsCenter. He's kind of old school, but a phenomenal passer and does everything well. It's just not always pretty. So that matters in an MVP race, but he, to me, is the clear front runner at this point. based off those two guys getting hurt. I liked how you touched on Dame. I think Damian Lillard deserves to be. He's like a top 3 guy as well for me now that these guys are missing time. Lillard's, obviously hasn't had McCollum for a large stretch of this year. Nurkic again got hurt, and Lillard's just continued to produce and kept that team afloat with a really good record at like 26-18 in the West. So I love Lillard quite a bit. You got Luka with the good stats. There's Joel.
There we go.
All by himself.
Yeah, just for you.
A guy who won't win it that we haven't talked about is Chris Paul. I think Chris Paul, I don't think he's borderline top 10 to me, not because of his numbers, but you look at what Phoenix is doing with the addition of him, and he's really turned that roster and that team into a team that can really, really make a run in the playoffs. I mean, obviously, they're a top 3 team in the West right now. I think they're number 2 in the West, and can really make a run. You talked about Giannis. I don't see him winning it just because there's fatigue there. He's already won a couple. Luka's really turned it on and playing really well right now, but I don't think it'll be enough.
I got you, man.
People have talked about James Harden, and that I'm like, listen, when the playoffs come and Kevin Durant's playing, does anyone feel like James Harden's the best player on his team? When Kevin Durant's playing, he's the best player on Brooklyn. Yep. I don't think anyone should question that. So how do you give the MVP to James Harden when they enter the playoffs or whenever Durant's back? He's going to be the best player on that team. So we can forget James Harden. No one should mention his name. I don't care if he's putting up 50 a game, because he's not going to even be the best player on that team when they enter the playoffs. And let's be honest, his shot making ability in the playoffs has been horseshit over his career. He's really struggled to hit the same type of shots in the playoffs. So we can forget Harden. I'm about to sneeze. I'm giving it up to you.
Bless you. Made a fun fact about Embiid. His mother didn't let him play until high school so he would do good in school. Yeah, I do. I've heard a lot of these stories. And actually, Scotty knows a lot of these stories too, because obviously Scott's a big KU guy, loves his Jayhawks. So anytime, any of his Jayhawks make it to the NBA, he always keeps good tabs on them. And Joel Embiid is no exception. Now, this is one thing that you've been torn on all season, because obviously you love our homeboy, Jokic, and you love Joel Embiid as well because of your college success and affiliation through the Jayhawks. But it's crazy how closely statted these two guys are between Embiid and Jokic. They are. We talked about this on previous streams too, where where the lower stats for one, there's a higher stat for the other, and vice versa. They average pretty similar numbers, and I mean, obviously Joel Embiid scores a little bit more, and he's averaging a higher point total than Jokic. Jokic has actually kind of taken a little step back, his assist numbers are a little bit down, but also the team has been doing a lot better of late as well, with Jokic kind of taking a step back, letting some of his other teammates, MPJ, get more shots, get into the game, get into his rhythms a little bit more. Michael, same thing with your boy
MPJ.
Yeah, MPJ. And everyone else actually on the team, just getting everyone involved. So I think that's part of it. Again, this is going to be a fun race down the stretch, but look out for Damian Lillard if they start creeping up the standings. I would say if he doesn't make it into the top 3 or 4 by the end of the season, barring any more setbacks injury wise with any of the guys above him, he's going to be right in the mix. So keep a lookout for them.
It'll be interesting though, now that McCollum's back, whether his stats kind of drop a little, because he obviously McCollum's a guy that can put up a lot of points, and so Lillard doesn't feel the need to kind of overtake games and do what he's done at the first part of the season. So his numbers might drop, which doesn't make him a worse player. It just means that he's got a little more around him now. So we'll see what happens there. But Lillard's a stud. Lillard's a stud that's should be first team All Pro this year and deserves it. And hopefully he'll get it. And a guy you don't want to play in the postseason because when he crosses half court, he's in range. It's Dame time.
He is insane.
Listen, Scotty, stay with that college team bias. Yeah, no, Embiid. Listen, I remember because the draft that Embiid came out, Embiid and Andrew Wiggins were both at Kansas at that time. They both only played there for a year. Embiid unfortunately got an injury prior to the tournament, so he didn't get to play in March Madness. And Kansas was like a 1 seed who basically bowed out in the second round because without Embiid, they were not near the same team. But yeah, Wiggins went 1, Embiid went 3, and I felt like Embiid was going to be far superior in the NBA to Wiggins. And obviously Embiid had a injury to deal with for a year or two there to start where he wasn't playing. But Philly's been rewarded by being patient and holding on to him and letting him heal from that injury that he suffered when he was in college. So, and now you got yourself one of the, one of the 2 top big men in the game.
Yeah, no, it's crazy to think that like the game has evolved to where it's at right now. The NBA, the big guy has been kind of one of those positions where it's historically, back in the day, you remember like the olden days when, you had like the guys get the ball in the post and they would back it down and, you get those points in the paint. Now it's like, Joel Embiid can hit the 3, Jokic, all these guys can spread the floor a little bit. That's the way the game is rolling to. And the fact that it's just the fact that we have 2 centers that are in the top 3 of this race. I mean, that's kind of fun. I mean, you don't really see that too often. You usually see the big time shooters, those types of like, you don't see a couple centers in the top 3 every year. And, international centers, a lot of international guys on this list. So, man, you had lot of interesting different options here when it comes to your MVP candidates and your favorites. So it's gonna be fun. Again, Mayday. Hey, I hope Embiid's in the race. I don't have those same ties to KU, so I gotta go with my boy Joker. But it's gonna be a fun one down the stretch.
Hop onto that KU bandwagon. They only lost by 35 the other night.
Yeah, we're going to be touching on some college basketball here in a little bit. But let's before we do, we're going to jump into the NHL for our last topic of the night when it comes to our rundown. Now, the last topic includes NHL officiating. Now, this isn't exactly one of the sexier things that's happened. Again, we've been talking about this has been kind of a down week, but this is kind of a big deal.
That image you had of his face, he's a sexy gentleman.
I'm
lying.
I mean, I don't know about that, but I'll let you have that one. So the big news in the NHL, though, this is kind of a big deal, though. Earlier this week, I think it was yesterday? Was it yesterday or the day before?
When this happened?
Yes, I believe it was
Tuesday night.
Tuesday night.
Yesterday.
Nashville Predators, Detroit Red Wings. So this is just a normal everyday game. But something happened in this game that kind of stood out to people who were watching on the broadcast. During at one point in this game, there was a hot mic. Similar to the NFL, the NHL has the hot mics where they, turn them on and off during certain points of the game where you can hear the calls based off of, different penalties, things along those lines. So shortly after Nashville forward Victor Arvidsson was whistled for a tripping penalty on Detroit defenseman John Merrill, a ringside TV microphone picked up the official saying, "It wasn't much, but I wanted to get the effing penalty against Nashville early."
Sorry. For those that don't know, effing, he's saying it was actually fucking.
It's fucking
fucking.
penalty. I'm just paraphrasing for our young viewers if we have any, which I don't think we do. So yeah,
it's late at night. We're good.
It's late. You should be in bed if you're watching this right now. So shame on
your parents. Clearly are already cussing in front of you if they're letting you stay. So.
But it wasn't much. But I wanted to get the fucking penalty against Nashville early. Now, this lit a fire under post-game conference. The coach said, this speaks for itself. I'll let the NHL figure out what they're going to do with this. And after this game, NHL Senior Executive Vice President Colin Campbell said in a statement, "Nothing is more important than ensuring the integrity of our game." They did a full investigation of what took place on this, and it was decided that Tim Peel was going to lose his job. He is no longer allowed to officiate any more NHL games, and moving forward, he is in the National Hockey League. Now, he's been a long-standing referee in the Hockey League, NHL, so this is kind of a big deal. He's 53, broke into the league in fall of '99, officiated 1,343 regular season games, 90 playoff contests, and also worked the 2012 NHL All-Star Game, not a big deal there, and the 2014 Olympics in Sochi. So, I mean, this is kind of a crazy situation because the first thought I think of is, all right, is this something like similar to the NBA where like or any other sport where it's like you may have makeup calls, right? You messed up a call, so there's makeup calls, and that's part of the game in a sense. It's not like a written rule, but like that those things happen, right? That there's makeup calls for certain things. It's kind of just part of the game. Or is this more of a systematic, like targeted thing that could be part of something bigger that might be a little bit more malicious towards, gambling or maybe something along those lines? We don't know. Obviously, this investigation didn't release a lot of those details. But, I honestly, from my standpoint, it feels more like a makeup call type thing. Like, all right, I definitely missed a call here. I definitely need to get a penalty on this team just to balance things out. I hope that's the case, and it's a little bit more on those lines. But, I mean, who knows what was really going on with this? Kind of a weird thing, and it's strange to know that, officials are kind of doing this sort of thing, out in the open like this. I don't know.
I mean, a couple things. Obviously, he said this to the other officials.
Yeah.
So he wouldn't have said this to the other officials if he was worried about how they would react to this or if they would report this to the league. So obviously, he's thinking these guys will be like, "Oh yeah, no, I get that. I've done the same thing." So he's probably not alone in this. And you talked about he's 53. So he was actually, the NHL got really lucky here in the sense that he was retiring after the season. That was already decided. This was his last year as an NHL ref. He was retiring after the season. So them basically letting him go or ceasing him to allow to be a ref at this point was a really, really easy fix for them to make it look like, hey, we're legitimate. We're not going to have officials that do sort of things like this and show prejudice. At the same time, this was the guy that was going to retire anyway. So they were like, oh, he's going to miss, reffing another 20 games in his career, whatever. It's weird to me that he's only ref he's been in the league for 22 years and only ref 90 playoff games. That seems like a low number for a guy who's been in the league 22 years with all the playoff games in the NHL, with 16 teams making it and 7 games in every series. That seems like a low number. So maybe he, hasn't been one of the refs that's been more consistent and got more of those playoff games. I don't know how NHL reffing works, but I know in other sports for sure, certainly NFL, you're rewarded based off your regular season performance to getting those high profile big playoff games. So this is a guy that the NHL probably was ready to get rid of anyway and ready for him to retire. And this was an easy thing for them to just be like, all right, there's no way we're jeopardizing our image and our league for you. So you're gone. Who knows what they tell them in private, but I don't think this is a one-off. I think there's other refs that probably do this. Listen, Refs are human. They show prejudice. I'm sure they do. If you had a bad game against a team, like where they were getting on you the whole game and you were super annoyed by it after the game, how much they were yelling and like getting on you about the calls, the next time you ref them, whether you realize it or not, there's probably prejudice there. So I don't think he's alone. It's not like the refs on the mic were like appalled by this. So
yeah. And I think the NHL, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I think the NHL did the right thing. They have to do this, right? Because going forward, if you're any team and you see this guy reffing your game, what's your first thought? Oh, I wonder if he's going to call this game straight up or if he's going to be, doing anything funky. Like your radar is on this referee right off the bat. If he's one of your, if you're looking at the lineup of referees and his name is on the list, like it's not going to be something that's going to be, well received in most players' minds, given the story of what just came out. So, you're always going to be like, am I getting targeted by this guy? If any penalties called on you, it's the right move. It helps the image of the NHL. I'm sure they're going to be, keeping an eye on anything that's going to be happening across the league and having a meeting with all the referees. If you hear or see anything along these lines, none of this will be tolerated. Please report it, type of stuff. But yeah, fascinating story. Again, hopefully we don't hear too much more of this stuff, but crazy. So it is what it is. But
I still trust basketball refs less.
Basketball
maybe football. I don't know. So that's
the thing. Referees have there's a lot of people out there. The Tim Donaghy is like the one that pops up in basketball. Like, he was very adamant about the systematic, he told us a lot. He dove in and told us this isn't a new thing. It's been happening. It will continue to happen. And, he came out and just put it all on the table. And there's a lot that, you always wonder sometimes with NBA. Betting is a big thing nowadays in the country. It's starting to get legal in each and every state, more and more each year. So, with more money coming into the casinos and I don't know, like there's a lot of mafia influences and stuff, especially on the college level, with all the betting that goes on and getting a hold of kids. But those are kids. This is referees. Referees do have a very, they have an impact on the game, 100%. Basketball is a big one because, ticky-tack foul, those things can add up over the course of a game, but only it takes 2 or 3 to influence a game, especially a close game that could change the outcome betting-wise or whatever that looks like. So, interesting.
Speaking of officiating, and this is a whole different topic we can dive into on a different show, but MLB and robot umps. They're doing some of that in the minor leagues. I'm all for it personally. That's just my personal opinion. I'm like, people are like, but whoa, the integrity of the game, and what about your catcher framing the pitch well? I'm like, I'm a logical guy, so for me, it's like a strike is a strike and a ball is a ball. It shouldn't matter what the catcher behind the batter is doing with that pitch. It's either going over the plate and the parameters that you design as a strike, or it's not, and it should be labeled as such with that. So I'm all on board. Plus, I think it would speed up the game and make it more reliable. There are statistics in baseball where there's real numbers as far as how many pitches are called poorly for different teams each year, both offensively and defensively. And a lot of the same teams that are smaller markets seem to be getting the raw end of the deal a lot of the time. So to me, it just makes sense. Like, if this is the rule, if it needs to cross home plate, make sure it crosses home plate. And if a robot ump's what you need to do that, do it. But we don't have to dive into that. I just wanted to throw that out there. Like, that's my opinion on that.
Yeah, a different topic for a different day. But yeah, I hear what you're saying though. Like, this automating some of those things, I don't think is the worst thing. Some of it, sure, I get on. I can't get on board with. Like, there's some aspects of it, but then there's some that I'm just like, if it's going to help the integrity of the game and make things fair down the line, hey, I'm all for that. So who knows? Technology is evolving very fast in the sports world in general. So it wouldn't surprise me if there were more of that, in the next few years and beyond. So crazy stuff. Nashville ended up winning this game, by the way, so it didn't really affect them in the big grand scheme of things. So
and both these teams suck, so it really doesn't matter.
No one really cares. It's just more about, the referee was the highlight of this game, or low light, I should say, but that's what got all the publicity. So let's shift over, though. We want to get into some of the March Madness side of things. So we want to finish up. There's, we had our Sunday show. We still had some games kind of going on at that point, but we wanted to just recap some of the takeaways from the March Madness tournament and kind of go into some of the different things that we, have in front of us here. Now, Mayday, you're excited to see Villanova on this list as a Sweet 16. These are our 16 teams that made it to the final group of this tournament. And some surprises, some not so much surprise. Looking at this list, you have, your favorites, Gonzaga, Baylor, Michigan, Houston, all expected to be here, Alabama. But there are also some other trends and patterns that you're seeing on this list that, you might not necessarily, be super, in tune with, because you're kind of just in shock of the fact that some of these teams made it. But looking at this, Syracuse, shocker. This is not a lot of people had. Some of us, Scotty, you mentioned early on, they could give people trouble, but I still don't think either of us had them this far.
I'm furious that I didn't follow my own advice.
You should have listened to your gut.
The last five times Syracuse has been a double-digit seed, they've made the Sweet 16 3 of the 5 times. So, my point that people aren't used to facing that zone and they're way better facing new opponents rather than conference opponents has been proven. Like they make runs because people aren't used to facing that zone. Now, as they get further, they face more talented, better teams. But I could easily see them beating Houston. I could easily see them making it to the Final Four. I think that would probably be where their run would end. But you look at that region with them, Houston, Loyola Chicago, and Oregon State. If I had to pick a team, actually,
you mean
I'm in that region to make the Final Four? I'm taking Loyola Chicago.
Loyola Chicago, Sister Jean, she's giving those prayers out, man. She's doing it. She's 101. You mentioned it. You mentioned it's kind of cruel to have her on the side.
I don't know. It seemed like her mask was over her eyes too. I don't know.
You think they just kidnapped her from wherever she was and were like, "Hey, sister, we need you right now. Make it just go to sleep for an hour in the car. We're gonna cruise you out to the tournament, we're gonna go on a vacation here. Let's don't mind where we're going." And then she wakes up and she's watching a basketball game. Like, what?
I think someone made a Twitter account for her. Now I'm gonna have to. Basically, someone the other day, like from Syracuse, posted a picture of a Syracuse guy and was like, "You don't want this smoke?" And Sister Jean on Twitter replied like, "I want to find for sure what it is, so I'm not representing it wrong." But it's like, "Oh, bring on that smoke, we're ready," or something like that. Like
Sister Jean talking shit.
Yeah.
No, this is crazy. While you're looking for that, just to label off some of these other teams. I mean, obviously the Michigan. If Steph is here in the chat somewhere in Facebook chat, your boys are still in. The Big Blue have made it. So Michigan still rolling on through. Alabama's looking really good. They've looked more consistent. There's a couple teams here that have been really, really consistent, and that's Alabama, Gonzaga have been, pretty strong so far in the first couple rounds, like expected. Houston has looked pretty decent as far as their run has been concerned. Nova coming in again. Mayday. Big ups to your boys, Nova. Oral Roberts is the big one here that no one expected to be here, and they have crept in. There were some bets on Oral Roberts early on. If you bet on Oral Roberts early, you were making some money. I'll tell you that right now. But crazy. Keep in mind, you don't see a lot of Big Ten teams. You only see, one. And you see a lot of Pac-12 teams. So, that being said, there was a couple memes out there that were really, that stood out to me because and Scotty, I texted you a TikTok of. Did you get that one? The golfer just hitting. Oh yeah.
It was the guy at Top Golf.
At Top Golf, and have you seen those videos on Facebook, YouTube, whatever, where they're just dropping balls, bouncing balls into the Top Golf little bay area, and they're just chipping them out. They had a guy who was just chipping out all the Big Ten teams, Ohio State, Iowa, Illinois, Wisconsin, Rutgers, Purdue, just powering them out there onto the golf course there, and it was fantastic. I loved it. But Michigan's the one carrying the torch. They're the big mama here, Mama Possum. All of the others just could not compete, and so that was a big surprise for a lot of people. We were kind of on and off. You definitely didn't think they were potentially as good as they could be, but then you flip the scripts. No one thought the Pac-12 in the regular season were going to be any good and make it any deep runs. And the regular season, they look like this skinny SpongeBob here. All of a sudden, they look like buff SpongeBob, like going crazy on fools. So it's been interesting to see some of those takeaways from the tournament early on. Like, who would have thought that the Pac-12 would be doing as well as they have been? UCLA, being in that mix as well. No one thought UCLA, SC, I think people had to go into maybe a round or two, but maybe no further than that. So Oregon played their butts off this last game, and they looked really good. Their defense, they have that big boy down low that was just block after block after block. Unbelievable. Their defense is fantastic. But here's some stats on how many people across the country picked these teams based off of making it to making their number one overall championship picks for their brackets. And obviously you have the big hitters up top. 2% Oral Roberts. Oregon State, 3.22%. You had a couple people on the Oregon State side there. UCLA, Syracuse. Not a lot.
My best feed, I guess, was Oregon. I had Oregon, who only 13% had in the Sweet 16, but my bracket's pretty busted. Overall, I also have that second most likely pick of Michigan. I picked them to not be there. So, of course, I would pick an upset on a Big Ten team in the second round, and it's the only Big Ten school that made it past the second round was Michigan. So that makes sense. That adds up. That checks out for me.
As far as some of the, my SEC, all of my SEC.
Where's your SEC?
You got a couple here. SEC still has a couple that, you got Alabama still looking really, really good. They've been consistently performing really, they've been putting away the teams they should be putting away. So there's no surprise there. Arkansas, I think I had them going a couple rounds, and they're doing some good things too. So SEC is well represented here in this list with those two top teams coming up big. So 77% picked Alabama, 55% picked Arkansas to go through. Andy Katz, he's a big time college guy. I think he has all of his Final Four still in. the tournament, if I'm not mistaken. I think I saw that on. This was through the March Madness NCAA Twitter account that they posted on that. Which,
I mean, that could be. That doesn't shock me. Outside of the one region I question would be, I guess he has Houston in the Final Four. That would be only.
I believe that might be one of them. Yeah, I think that's.
I mean, he could literally have
Actually,
Gonzaga, Michigan, Baylor, and Houston. Like, he could have 3 1s and a 2, which isn't that bold, and those are still all 4 alive. So.
Yeah, I mean, I could take a look here while we're going through this a little bit further, but I think from what I remember scrolling through some of those Twitter posts, he had something along those lines. But I'll find it here in a little bit. Oh, here he is. Baylor, Loyola Chicago, Michigan.
Oh, he has Loyola Chicago. Okay.
And he has them losing to Baylor. He has Gonzaga and Michigan. Gonzaga beating Michigan, Baylor beating Loyola Chicago, and then Gonzaga beating Baylor. So that's his bracket. So he has Syracuse playing Loyola Chicago, Arkansas playing Baylor, Alabama and Michigan, USC and Gonzaga. So he has USC, going out of that one. That's a damn good bracket. if you ask
me, working out real good for him.
Whoo, man.
Not a big Andy Katz guy in general, but
no,
it's working out for him.
No, yeah, and
congrats on your good luck, buddy.
He's definitely in the top 0.5% of any bracket out there. I guarantee that. So as far as this goes, this is the highest average seed in Sweet 16 history. So there's a lot of high seeds in here. Still got 3 1s. So that a couple. You have your 2s, Houston and Alabama. But besides that, it climbs and escalates quickly after that. A lot of 5s, 6s, 7s. I mean, look at the 15, 12, 2 11s at this point. Pretty crazy to think that this is the highest average seed so far. So there's a lot here that there's still a lot of upsets that could happen. A lot of Cinderellas that could be available to make a push here. I mean, it wouldn't shock me if a few of these teams won the next round and made it. And maybe some of these 3 or 4 seeds, 5 seeds end up getting knocked out. And you have some 11 seeds and 12 seeds making it into the Elite 8. You never know. Anything can happen, especially,
right. I'll throw something at you real quick.
All right, let's see what you
pick
got.
Based off the teams left, who's your new Final Four? You can pick whatever 4 teams you want.
Ooh.
I mean, well, obviously based off region.
Oh man.
I mean, you can already say Gonzaga. That's fine because we know that one.
So I still think Gonzaga.
2 of your Final Four are left.
Yep, and I'm still gonna stick with those 2 Final Fours. I think Gonzaga and Alabama are both. I think going to come out of the left side of the bracket. If I'm going to re-look at this, man, I would say between Baylor, Arkansas, I think Baylor's back on track. Baylor is hard to go against when it comes to how they've been playing. Arkansas is a fast-paced team. I think they have some opportunities to just, run up and down and kind of shock Baylor. I think it's a super close game. But I do think... And sorry, Mayday, I don't know if I have Villanova getting there. But I think I got to go Baylor. And between Loyola Chicago and Syracuse, Houston, I think Houston's going to... Man, that bottom corner, that one's unpredictable. I love Loyola Chicago, what they've been doing. Between them and Houston, coming out of that quadrant, I think Syracuse is they're gonna fall short at some point. Ooh, man, I know you like Syracuse too. I think you like them to go, but I'm gonna end up. Oh, I'm gonna go on a limb and say I think I might have to go Loyola Chicago. They are just.
I already said that's who I was going with in that region.
Houston really makes it tough. I think Houston's a really good team, but
I think Houston loses to Syracuse.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, that's what in Andy Katz's bracket, that's what he has as well.
Well, then it has to be true.
It has to be true. He's know all, see all. I think that's what I got. I think I got Loyola Chicago, Gonzaga, Alabama, and Baylor. Those are my fun four.
I'll tell you what. I do think, of course, Gonzaga's the favorite there. I think the winner, and they'll easily win the Sweet 16. The winner of that Oregon USC game is gonna give Gonzaga all they want. Like if Oregon and USC were in another region, I think they would be easily a big time like potential Final Four candidate. Obviously in Gonzaga's region, not as much, but whoever comes out of that game, and I honestly don't know. I think Oregon's better offensively. I think USC's better defensively than, and I don't even know what they've done against each other this year when they've gone head to head. But those two teams are dangerous to me, and will give Gonzaga a tough run in that Elite Eight. I think Gonzaga wins. My other teams, I think I agree with Baylor, mostly because they're my favorite team left in the tournament because I need them in our bracket challenge to make that Final Four. Pretty important. And we have one region that doesn't really matter, the region with Loyola Chicago and Houston and Syracuse. And who else is there?
In that bottom of the so Houston, Syracuse, Oregon State, Loyola Chicago.
Yeah, that region doesn't really matter for our bracket challenge. I have to now be a very large Michigan fan. I'm a very big Michigan fan to come out of.
Got to derail that Alabama.
Derail Alabama and Florida State. Derail both those teams because I think you have Florida State beating Michigan.
I do think Michigan does have some trouble.
I need Michigan to win that game and then beat Alabama, who I have in the Elite Eight, but I don't have in the Final Four like you do. And then I just need Baylor to make the Final Four, and I'm golden. It's all good. Right now, we didn't announce, but I don't know if you've checked the math, but I believe we are 100% tied right now in our
serious brackets. Wow.
Yep. I thought I was sitting after the first round. I thought I was in great position. A lot of games that could have worked out for me, and there was no chance of you getting any points in the second round, did not work out for me.
Caught back up.
So here we are.
Okay.
So here we are. I believe, and I'll double check it eventually, but I believe we're tied. And the differences at this point are basically
who gets we those have Final Fours, right?
I'm a big Baylor and Michigan fan. If Baylor and Michigan make it to the Final Four, you're donezo.
Yeah, and I still have to. I mean, I'm a big Florida State fan, and I'm a big Alabama fan. Obviously.
Yep. Those are the only two teams that matter for you.
Yeah. So as long as those two pan out the way I hope, we'll see what happens. But yeah, you got Gonzaga winning it all, as do I. The bottom right doesn't matter, as you mentioned. And the upper right-hand corner, I'm done already. You have Baylor. So, I mean, if I'm actually kind of an Arkansas fan, actually, in that upper right-hand corner as well. So I'll take Arkansas to beat Baylor, hopefully, and that's pans out for me. But Deb in the chat, she has her Final Four: Gonzaga, Baylor, Loyola, and Michigan. So she's with you on the Michigan train.
She agreed with all four of my picks. Nice work, Deb.
And then as far as the bet goes, we are going beards. So if Scotty loses, he's got to grow a beard. And I mean, I don't know. How long does it take for you to grow a beard? I don't even know. Have you've only grown it out like for maybe a month, 3 weeks?
Yeah, somewhere just short of a month is the longest I've ever gone in my life. Doesn't look great. I would go 2 months. I'll go 2 months on this. If you agree that you're clean shaven, just can't be clean shaven, and then the next day you have like a shadow going.
5 o'clock.
That doesn't work for me. Yeah, like even that same day. So you need to be clean shaven for. If I'm going 2 months, you're going 3 weeks.
I was about to say either 2 or 3 weeks. I think is that's a long time to be clean shaven. And
3 weeks.
I guarantee
3 weeks.
the wifey is not going to be a fan of that. So, all right, 3 weeks. 3 weeks, I could do that. I'll pull that off. If I win, then you got to grow it out for 2 months because it takes time for the beard to come in, man. It takes.
Well, and I'm super blonde, so. Deb's concerned for you in the chat.
She's very concerned. She does not want to see that. I don't think Lauren wants to see that either.
Why does everyone hate the bottom half of your? The good news for you is this is a good time to do it. You're still wearing masks a lot of the time in public.
That's true. I'll just wear a mask at home too.
Just trying to be safe. Just trying to be safe. Wearing a mask.
Last thing we want to touch on here. Some of the players to watch in the, obviously Cat's our boy again. I'm pulling a lot of the graphics from the March Madness, and he's a big influencer there. So just keep that in mind. But some of the players that he likes to watch, there's a couple players on this list that aren't mentioned that I would want to just touch on as well. But some big names here. Buddy Bayheim is an interesting one. Buddy Bayheim has been kind of a fun one to watch. Little son Bayheim. He has been helping the Syracuse team. Obviously, coach of the son of the coach, who's obviously they're doing some amazing things. So he's been a fun little surprise to come out of this tournament, and he's scoring like crazy. Another one, you know what? And Jalen Suggs, I actually would not have him on this list. If you watch this last game with Gonzaga. There's some other guys on that team that have been absolutely, one of which has a handlebar mustache. Scotty, have you seen this handlebar mustache?
Oh yeah, no, that would be someone losing a bet for sure. That thing's awful.
He is fantastic, and he has been.
You don't want to face USC. Evan Mobley on this list would erase him.
Yeah, I mean he's definitely he's undersized a little bit. Now, Evan Mobley's length
would make it. That's a bad matchup for Timmy. And
yeah.
Gonzaga still should win that game, but Timmy would have to rely on, Kispert, Suggs, some of the other pieces to take over, because I don't think Timmy can do what he does normally against Mobley in the post. Mobley's like probably the best interior defender with his length, maybe in the country.
Yeah, and we already saw some of the length get a hold of those block shots. Yeah. Did you see some of those block shots
against Kansas?
No, that too. But even in this last game that Gonzaga played, he got his shot blocked 3 or 4 times. And that length. Now that's one of the strengths. I think Gonzaga has the edge, because you take away that inside presence. I mean, first of all, he's good at finding the open passer down low. He's very good at getting the ball out if he's stuck in a position that against a big, tall, athletic defensive opponent. But you kick out to Kispert, you kick out to Suggs or some of these other guys, man. He's gonna be taking what the defense gives him, I think, and he's gonna pull his inner Jokic, Nikola Jokic, and I think he's gonna start making some plays, with his hands, passing the ball outside of the paint. So we'll see what happens there. But honestly, Jalen Suggs, I think he hasn't exactly, been. I've had a lot of fun watching Jalen Suggs. He's my boy. He's been my boy from the beginning of this season. But Drew Timme and Kispert have been fun to watch too, and they don't even make this list. So that just kind of shows you. Chris Duarte, Oregon, man, that game, I thought he was pretty dynamic. I don't know if he's been playing.
He's the guy he was going to.
Yeah, I don't know if he's been getting a lot of hype for sure.
Real good.
Yeah, he can make some plays, man. He is unbelievable. So look out for Chris Duarte if you're watching that Oregon game. Man, he can turn it on.
Yeah, I think that game's gonna be That's the toughest matchup for me as far as who's going to come out of that USC Oregon, which is ironic because I think that's the only game where the two teams have faced in the regular season. So we have some evidence of what happens, but that doesn't always mean that's what's going to happen in a third game or whatever they've played anyway. So that game's the most even matchup to me. I think USC's favored right now by like 2.5. Gonna be a tough battle. Chris Duarte, really solid point guard for Oregon, but the length and size and athleticism of USC is tough to match up with. Otherwise, these games, when I think we talked on Sunday that the games the next day on Monday, outside of the Gonzaga game, every one of the other games were a spread of 5.5 or less. We don't now all of a sudden we don't see that in the Sweet 16. We got Loyola Chicago, a 6.5 point favorite over Oregon State. Baylor's a 7-point favorite over Villanova. Arkansas is 11-point favorite over Oral Roberts. Houston's a 6-point favorite over Syracuse. Really like Syracuse there, by the way, if anyone wants to throw some money. Or fade me, which probably might work better. Gonzaga's a 13.5. Michigan, Florida State's a tight one. That's a 2.5 point spread right now. Michigan's favored by 2.5. And then Alabama, 6.5. I kind of like you. No, I won't say on that one. My favorite bet is Syracuse, I think. Which I feel like a lot of people are probably putting money on Syracuse though, so that scares me a little. Because that seems obvious to me. Like Houston didn't look great. They kind of like came back in the last few minutes to pull out their second round matchup, and now they're gonna have to face that zone. And I don't think Syracuse is a great team, Houston's a great team. So I don't know. I'd place that one a little closer. That's the favorite bet of mine. Other than that, these are going to be fun games, but these lines aren't as close, ironically, as the second round matchups were. So
yeah,
we'll see what happens, but it'll be fun. It's weird. It's super weird that we're not playing till Saturday and Sunday. I know I said that earlier, but it's bizarre. I want games tomorrow. Like then we're going to have our Elite Eight on Monday and Tuesday. I don't want to Elite Eight games on Monday and Tuesday.
It is. I was looking at the schedule and I was like, man, we got to wait a full week. Got nothing to look forward to like during the week outside of some. Yeah, like we had obviously the NBA trade. Luckily, we have the NBA trade deadline, and luckily we have some of those things going on with the NBA and NHL. Like we could watch some of those, but. When you're in the middle of March Madness, you just want those games to pick right back up again. And it's like, I get it, right? Like, they're all in one city, so they're all playing out of one. So there's no travel involved, but there's typically, if there wasn't a pandemic, there would be, some days in between traveling between the different regions of the tournament to try to get everyone settled in and, going and everything. But man, a week off is kind of a rough go, especially when we were so excited to get back into March Madness and we were like so jacked up, and we get that first weekend and it's so great, and then all of a sudden it's like, all right, we gotta wait again. It's tough, man. It's tough, but hey, we'll get there, and it's gonna make maybe this is a good thing. Maybe it's like we're itching for it and we just want it so bad, and then you just it's that much better once you get it, right? It's like, you go to a restaurant, you're just waiting and waiting for your meal, and it's like when you get it, it's finally there, and it's like, okay, finally, and it's like that much better, like if you're like that much hungrier, But I don't know. Maybe that's a bad analogy, and maybe we just want our games right away.
I'm pretty much always hungry. So I don't really get that reference, but sure.
Yeah, sure. Why not? So anyways, that's what we're working with here. These are your Sweet 16. Let us know in chats. Who do you have advancing? Who do you guys have making it to the very end? Don't lie and say Oral Roberts, but actually, you know what? We'll give you a clean slate. If you think Oral Roberts is your team as of right now and you want to take them all the way, power to you. Throw it in the chat. I want to see who you got. So whether you're watching on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, just put it out there so we can see who everyone is going for. Obviously I'm going for my Zags because obviously I picked them. Big Zags guy. Can't wait for them to play again. But hey, if you're a Florida State fan, UCLA, Arkansas, Syracuse, let's see what you guys got. Let's represent your team. throw it out there. Can't wait to see all of the responses. But yeah, that's all we really wanted to cover here. We're approaching the end of the show, so I wanted to just make sure we got you a little bit of that March Madness fix, given the fact that we aren't going to have games for a little bit longer, but we're almost there. So just want to get you guys all hyped up for the weekend coming up here. And we'll have a lot to talk about on Sunday night, that's for sure. There's going to be a lot of interesting things to throw out there for our Sunday show. Sunday show, we'll be back right here in the Action Lab, 7:30 Mountain Time, 9:30 Eastern. Sorry to all our East Coast folks who, a.k.a. Mayday, who can't necessarily make it the full time. But
suck it up.
Mayday, when are you going to make it out to the West Coast? Just move out to, Cali or something, somewhere nice. Maybe, hey, Colorado's nice. I'll let you be a Joker fan. You can, put all that East Coast stuff aside and I'll accept you as a Nuggets fan. Just jump on in, man. The water is fine. I'll tell you. Anyways, yeah. So thank you guys so much for being a part of tonight's show. We have a lot of fun doing this, and we're so glad that you guys end up popping in and giving all your input. Thank you all for everyone who chimed in. So, Pork Chop, Mayday, Deb, everyone else. Am I missing anybody? I don't think I am. I think, let's see, I had someone who popped in and liked the stream as well. Sorry if I don't know your name off the top. But thank you guys for the support. If you're here and you don't know when we're going live, typically, it's because you're not following. It's because you're not hitting that follow button on either Twitch, Facebook, or YouTube. So make sure you're hitting that follow button. We have all of our social media accounts on the screen, so make sure you're getting those all followed there as well. It doesn't cost you anything. Scotty, how much does it cost you to follow?
$100.
All right, don't follow.
Did I get that wrong?
Don't follow then. Don't follow.
It's free. and if it's 100, that's a steal. Because this content is worth it, ladies and gentlemen. Get in fast before that price goes up.
Hey,
how about that?
We're like the NFTs of streaming world, right? You buy us now when the price is low, then we're just gonna rock it to the moon.
Nobody understands that.
Nobody understands it. I'm sorry. Sorry, guys. But appreciate all the love, guys. We will see you back here in the Action Lab on Sunday, and hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your week. Scotty, anything else?
No, have a great week, guys. We will see you back here on Sunday night.
All right. Love you guys. Have a good one.